China has reported its first case of the Omicron variant. Local reports say authorities in the northern city of Tianjin confirmed the case in someone who entered the country from an undisclosed overseas location. The patient is reported to be asymptomatic and is in isolation in hospital. China is on alert for potential outbreaks as it prepares to host the Winter Olympics in February. On Tuesday alone, officials said they had sent 500,000 people into quarantine after about 50 COVID cases were reported in Zhejiang province on the country's east coast. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by journalist Fabian Kretschmer. He's been following this story for us in Beijing. Fabian, the Chinese government says they have everything under control. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, today's news of the first Omicron case is quite alarming, but realistically, it was only a matter of time until this scenario would happen. And it's important to note that it was detected by a man who traveled from overseas, and all travelers from outside, they have to immediately quarantine. They're basically greeted in the airplane by people in hazmat suits and then carried off to centralized quarantine facilities. So the probability that this man has locally infected anyone else is relatively low, given the very, very strict measurements here by the Chinese government.
Omicron, though, isn't the only concern in the Chinese province of Zhejiang. There has been an outbreak of Delta cases. How's that affecting the zero COVID strategy in China?
I mean, that is much more alarming. I mean, it's almost, or actually over 2 months now that local infection clusters are ongoing. And recently they've been in border areas, for example, in the very north to Russia or in the very south, close to Myanmar. But now the province of Zhejiang is affected. Of all the 51 cases of today, 44 were from Zhejiang. That is an economically much stronger region. The province is the fourth strongest in terms of GDP contribution in the whole country, and also one of the e-commerce hubs of China. So now when there are 500,000 people in home quarantine and more than 50,000 people in centralized quarantine facilities, the economic damage is really much stronger and can be felt. So I would say that is a threat to the zero COVID strategy.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, China is about to host the Winter Olympics in February. How much of a worry are these recent COVID cases in terms of the Games?
Well, it's not an existential threat to the Games. If we remember the Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo, the numbers were much higher than they are now in China. But it's a threat to the prestige of the country, which is one of the only states in the world that completely eradicated the virus for a certain period of time. And you can feel that the authorities react stronger and stronger against the virus. For example, here in Beijing, travel became almost a gamble. It's impossible to get outside without quarantine restrictions. So, yeah, people are getting really nervous about the virus ahead of the Games.
All right, journalist Fabian Kretschmer speaking to us from Beijing. Thanks very much.